One of the greatest transformations, character transformations in all of Tanach appears regarding Yosef in these parashot, and one of the most profound in the beginning of Parashat Vayigash. You see, we know that for so much of Yosef's earlier life, his brothers hated him for being self-centered. Not only was he singled out by his father with a Technicolor dream coat, but he was for constantly telling on his brothers and tattletaling, so to speak. V'lo yachlu dabro l'shalom. We read in 2 parashas ago, they couldn't even speak in any way congenially to him because of their hatred for him. And then he comes and tells them their dreams and how they're all going to bow down to him. And we notice in the beginning of Yosef's career when we meet him, you never hear the name of God mentioned on his lips. It's all about me, myself, and I. I am the one who's blessed. I am the one who's been singled out by my father. I'm the one who's had these dreams, and all of you will bow down to me. But I noticed in last week's parasha, a transformation takes place and is completed this week. The moment he steps out of the prison and he comes before Pharaoh, he's a changed person. The first word he says to Pharaoh, when Pharaoh says, "You are my man, I believe you are the person who is able to interpret dreams." And then the transformative word, arguably the most in Tanach, he says, "Biladai," it's got nothing to do with me. Pharaoh, it's not me. Elokim yanesh shlom paro. He said, everything that I know is only a conduit for God. God, and 4 times he says, God, 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 God. He's a transformed man, no longer self-centered, but centered on God. And where do we see that so profoundly in this week's parasha? Because you see, when he finally reveals himself in Vayigash to his brothers, they are nivhalu mipanav, v'lo yachlu la'anot oto. They couldn't even stand in front of him. Imagine what the brothers were feeling. How the danger, the embarrassment, the humiliation that they felt, that their brother knows not only is alive, they now understand the pain and humiliation that caused him for so many decades, what they did to their father. And Yosef knows what they've done to their father, the pain that they've caused him. They couldn't even speak to him because they thought, I imagine, there's no way that he can forgive us after such a painful experience. And even when he tells them to come close, they can't come close. He forces them, so to speak, to come close. He hugs them, they don't hug him. They are totally bewildered, astonished, and maybe even fearful of their lives. And then we see the transformative psukim. 4 times actually, he mentions the word that he is a shaliach of Hashem. He says, I know that you people are probably sad and feeling that you did terrible things to me, but I want to let you know that you didn't do it. He says, don't be sad, don't be upset. That you sent me here. He says, listen, God sent me here. And then he says again, God sent me. And again, 2 other times, I am here of a shlichut of God. You see, are we in life our own shaliach, self-appointed mission that it's about me, myself, and I? Or do we see ourselves as living in God's will and a conduit for the values that Hashem wants from us? And always trying to understand, how can we make a difference in the world? You see, those years in prison, Yosef seemed to have introspected so much that it was no longer about him. When he comes out of prison, he's a changed man. Before, you hardly hear Shem Hashem on his lips. Once or twice it's mentioned tangentially. From now, every time he opens his mouth, I'm a shaliach of Hashem. To the extent that I can forgive you. You didn't sell me down to Egypt. Yes, you did, but that's between you and God. I've forgiven you. I realize that there's a bigger plan over here. I realize that somehow there's a mission to fulfill, and I've forgiven you because it's no longer about me. I don't take myself as centrally and as seriously as I did before. I see myself as part of God's world, and somehow it needed to happen to me. Yes, you've got to give din v'cheshbon, but not to me, to God. I've forgiven you. I have to now understand what role I can play to move Jewish history forward. And in that he says, I am a shaliach of Hashem. And throughout his life, even at the end of his life, in the end of Parashat Vayechi, when Yaakov dies and the brothers be'emet think he's going to, the brothers never ever really felt that Yosef forgave them. In fact, when Yaakov eventually dies, the brothers come to him again at the end of Parashat Vayechi and say to him, please forgive us. Dad said you have to forgive us. We're happy to be servants to you. And Yosef painfully understands that the brothers really think that he wants to kill them, that he only didn't kill them because he didn't want to cause more pain to the father, Yaakov, and only now that Yaakov has died, now he's going to kill them. He says, I've explained to you. I've forgiven you. You didn't sell me to Egypt. Hashem sent me here to bring salvation to the Jewish people. His transformation is complete. And all of us in life, in order to be truly transformed, are we in this world for our own self-appointed mission, where we are the center of our lives, or are we here as b'shlichut elokit, as Yosef has taught us? And even if we think we're here for our own self-appointed mission, Yosef is the paradigmatic example that when one shifts one mindset to understand you live in God's world and you're a shaliach of Hashem, you can forgive people who've done to you. You can go far beyond yourself because we're part of a much bigger picture and committed to a much bigger cause, much bigger than ourselves. Shabbat Shalom.